I went to prison myself as a teenager, and I was released at 31. I did time in 9 different prisons. There is forced prison labor in all of them, but now it's more industrialized, where guys are working for corporations and still making less than $50 a month. And that issue alone correlates with our high crime rates and high recidivism rates, because I know that if people were compensated properly for work that they do in prison, they would get out in better shape. And most of the guys that get out and come right back are guys that have money issues. So if you work for 10 years or 15 years or however long your sentence is, and you come out just as broke as you were when you went in, that's no good. If you're working to make private corporations or private individuals profit, and none of that profit comes to you, then that is slavery.
Well, also joining us is Bianca Tylek, and she is the founder and executive director of Worth Rises, a nonprofit organization devoted to dismantling the prison industry. So thanks to both of you for being here. You think that forced labor inside prison is, in fact, slavery?
Most definitely.
No upside to it at all?
Well, there's an upside to it if you create it for yourself. But I'd like to also make a point about this subject, that there's 4 or 5 times more county jails in America than prisons. And people in county jails don't work. Sometimes they stay there 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they don't have to work. They can do whatever they want to do. But my issue with the whole forced prison labor is, let me do something that will create a better citizen, because that's what society is saying it wants from me. It wants me to get out. If I have a release date and I get out of prison, what do you expect from me? Do you want me to be better or worse or the same? It really comes down to that question. And if I'm forced to work in jobs that have no real upside for me, because I've done, most of the jobs I did in prison had no upside. It was just work. So when I got out at 31 years old, I didn't have anything. There's nothing waiting for you. For most guys like me, especially when you do a lot of time, there's nothing waiting for you but downside. So if you want an upside, you have to create yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did.
Demico says that prisons made him think about his ancestors and what they must have felt. This really impacted you mentally and emotionally.
Oh yes, it made me hate my country, to be brutally honest with you. It made me seriously hate my place of birth. When I went to prison, I was ignorant of many things. I didn't know much about myself. I didn't know much about American history or world history. But when I went to prison, I read hundreds of books. I learned a lot of things that I didn't learn in school that I should have learned in school, about myself, about history and world history. And when I put all of those things together, coming into prison that young and seeing most of the guys there look like me, guys under 25 with 25, for an amount of drugs that can fit in the palm of your hand, first-time offenses. You know, and I analyzed the situation deeply, and that's where that hatred came from, because I didn't see, any out. I didn't see any way that this was going to change. I felt like an enemy in my own country. And yes, I made a mistake. I was 18 years old. I sold crack. My neighborhood was a ganged up neighborhood. So I made typical decisions from, like someone coming from those environments makes.
Yeah.
And to be punished in such a way, to go and have all of my 20s taken from me. Every day of my 20s for an amount of drugs that could fit in the palm of your hand. Never had a traffic ticket before that. That hurt me.
Yeah. Now, Bianca, let's talk about the money. How much money are corporations making from prisoners like this who are working in prisons? What kind of money are they making off of this a year?
I think we're looking at reports that are saying as much as $11 billion. But I think it's important to realize that it's not just about corporations. We get really hung up on the idea of corporations using labor. But the biggest abuser of prison labor, exploiter of prison labor, is the US government, by far. More than 90% of people who are incarcerated are slaving for the government.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.